Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar series titled Jumpstart Careers, Apprenticeship, Pre-Apprenticeship, and Industry Recognized Credentials, sponsored by Iowa's Workforce Development Office. We're so pleased to have you all here. My name is Joe Murphy, and I'm the president of the Iowa Business Council. The Iowa Business Council is made up of some of Iowa's largest employers across the state of Iowa, and our mission is to serve as a catalyst for economic growth in our entire state. The Iowa Business Council is made up of 22 CEOs and top executives from Iowa's leading employers, and our primary functions are global thought leadership, research, and advocacy. And when you think about the Iowa Business Council, while our membership is relatively small, only 22 members, again, we represent some of the largest employers in the state. And so just in 2023 alone, our members employed more than 160,000 Iowans, had a payroll exceeding $10 billion, and had $2 billion in research and development. And our whole focus is to create opportunities for a better future for all businesses and all Iowans. And one of the ways that we talk about this every single meeting and throughout our entire work portfolio is focusing on how we can grow our workforce here in the state of Iowa. While our members have multi-state operations, some of them have multinational state operations, we want to expand opportunities here in the state of Iowa. We want to hire more Iowans, and we want to create more opportunities across all 99 counties in our state. But our concerns remain around workforce and how we attract that new talent into our labor pipeline and ultimately into the careers and job paths that we'll talk about today. So when you think about Iowa's workforce dynamics currently, while we still have one of the highest labor force participation rates in the country, we have slipped a little bit from our standard of around 70% labor force participation. We've had declining rates of our participation month over month since January. Our labor force participation rate now hovers at about 66%. And we have more job openings in our state today than we have people on unemployment. And so we really are struggling with the population dynamics in our state. More people are retiring every single month, which is great, but we're really trying to focus on how we build that workforce in behind our retirees and other people who are exiting the labor force for whatever reason. And one of the ways that we're excited to continue to partner with the state on and our K through 12 institutions as well is through work-based learning. And that's what we're here to talk about today. You know, we really think highly of work-based learning programs all across the state of Iowa. We have many examples of engagements across all of our companies, whether that's through registered apprenticeship program, high quality pre-apprenticeship programs, and high school internship programs. And the whole goal here is to identify individuals earlier on in their academic career, before they graduate high school, before they graduate a grade 2-year institution, and before they graduate a grade 4-year institution in the state of Iowa, to expose those individuals to career opportunities right here in the state. They don't have to leave Iowa. They don't have to move on and get workforce experience somewhere else and then come back. You can gain that exposure, that knowledge, that career path in your chosen profession right here in the state of Iowa. This is a population growth strategy as we try to retain as many individuals as we can. And it's great to see so many businesses participating in high quality work-based learning experiences across Iowa's employment background. You know, it's not just the larger companies in the state of Iowa that are engaging in this. It's small, medium-sized companies as well. It's large school districts, it's medium-sized school districts, and small school districts as well. And so we're excited to set the stage for this webinar today. Building Iowa's future workforce is the most important aspect, I think, on growing a sustainable and thriving economy. And we're really excited about this dynamic offering here today through Iowa Workforce Development and the future partnerships that we'll create here today as well. So thank you all for being here. We look forward to the dialogue. And Tara, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Joe. As we are getting started, just a reminder that if you have questions, please put them in a chat. We will get to those questions as we can, and then those that we may not be able to answer today, we will be following up. Also, just wanted to give just some recognition to Iowa Workforce Development and the Iowa Department of Education. And then I represent the Iowa Work-Based Learning Coordinators as their past president. So we are all excited to have you here today. We will now welcome Dane Solentic with the Iowa Office of Apprenticeship Director with Iowa Workforce Development.
All right. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Joe, for your words and introduction. So, hello, everyone. I am Dane Solentic. I'm the State Apprenticeship Director here at Iowa Office of Apprenticeship. It's great to be able to be in front of you all and have this opportunity to kind of hopefully shed a little bit of light on all of the moving pieces that have been registered apprenticeship in the state over the last couple of years. So I do have a limited time, so I want to be cognizant of that and maybe if there's any questions, but be able to get to our other presenters as we go. So I've got a few slides for you, and Abby, if you want to go ahead and move on to the first one. So really, I just want to give kind of that 10,000-foot view of what registered apprenticeship is. I know, again, there's been a lot of transition and a lot of questions over the last couple of years in the state of who's doing what is RA, how can I get started, how does it fit within high schools, all of those questions, right? Well, again, registered apprenticeship really is an industry-driven, high-quality career path. It's employer-led, it's an industry-led. So this is a registered apprenticeship is a nationally recognized system throughout the country. And industry throughout the country dictates kind of what these programs are, what's entailed, how long they are, all of that. So Dane at Iowa Office of Apprenticeship is not the one making these decisions. If you get frustrated with how long a program is, or that, hey, this isn't exactly what we're going to do or works for us, it is a recognized national program that Department of Labor still oversees, okay? But with our office, that's where we come in to really help, guide you and make these programs work the best that they can for you. So again, it provides industry-driven, provides that work experience, that earn as you learn. I know that's kind of the one, everyone seems to remember that, and it really does fit exactly with what registered apprenticeship is. Earn as you learn. You don't have to have the skills, from the very beginning, because you're going to learn those skills on the job with a mentor, a professional in that industry. So it really is a viable path for anyone looking to upskill, change careers, but it's also a fantastic opportunity for employers to fill those workforce needs, to grow those pipelines, and to even upskill their current workforce as well. So, Abby, if you want to go on to the next slide there. So I really like this graphic because it really does give you what the components of registered apprenticeship are. This is what makes up registered apprenticeship. So first and foremost, like I said, it's industry-led. Industry dictates what these programs look like. And one of the beauties of registered apprenticeship is the standardization, is that consistency. So if you're an electrician, if you're an IT professional, whatever apprenticeship program you are, if you're in the state of Iowa and you move, and you go to California, all of this will transfer with you because again, industry-led is the national industry. Like, what does it take to be in this? What skills do you need to do this job? And that's where that standardization is really what gives apprenticeship that teeth. Because again, it's not Iowa, it's not Dane deciding what these are. It's industry that decides what these programs are. There's really two main pieces of registered apprenticeship, and that's the on-the-job learning, the OJL, and the related training instruction, the RTI. And those two pieces really make the meat and potatoes of what registered apprenticeship is. On-the-job learning is exactly that. That's where you start, that's where you work. You work with a mentor and you learn that job from day one, and you progress through it from year to year, month to month, until you become a professional or meet all of the required skills for that job. And then that related training instruction is that supplemental training, that classroom component is what I like to call it, where you learn the on the job, but then you go back and you learn the theory, or why do you do it this way, or what other, different ways of looking at the problem, just that classroom component, right? And that could be online, that could be in person, that could be both. There's a lot of different options with related training instruction. So those are the two main pieces of what registered apprenticeship is. So if you take anything out of what I'm going to tell you today, please, this slide is really the main piece if you're unfamiliar with registered apprenticeship. And then the other pieces, again, paid job, it is a job. And that's where I always want to reiterate that apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship isn't just a program. It's not just a training program. It is an actual job. So first and foremost, again, you have to have an employer and you have to have a job. And then you get hired into that job and you just happen to be an apprentice. So, but with that program goes along with the wage increase. So there is a set wage increase, incremental wage increase throughout your program. So whether it's 1 year or 4 years, as an apprentice, I'm going to start at this wage and I'm going to end at this wage. And in that time period, you're going to learn everything up. You're going to move up in pay scale, potentially move up in your duties and what your responsibilities are. And at the end of your program, when you complete it, and you get that recognized credential, which is another component, you'll be at that ending wage mark. So it could start at $15 an hour and end at 30. It really doesn't matter. It's up to the employer because, again, the employer is hiring you into that position. Diversity and quality and safety. Again, quality and safety, that's the backbone of what registered apprenticeship is. Registered apprenticeship has been around for over 100 years. And it really was created out of the necessity of having, safety on the job back in the, early 1930s and 20s, where that wasn't exactly the focus. It was mainly just get, a 10-year-old or whoever in and they'll do the job and, whatever happens, happens. Well, again, obviously that wasn't the route that was probably should have gone. And so the quality and safety check is a big piece of it. And that's why having mentors, having those ratios, most of the trades, the ratio is 1-to-1, meaning one mentor to one apprentice. So, and that's there for safety, so that mentor knows exactly what that apprentice is doing and can oversee that individual as they progress through their program. And then diversity, and what we mean by diversity really is apprenticeship is for everyone. It really is. Again, more and more, and I know none of us are unfamiliar to the trends, but more and more people are looking at other options outside of that post-secondary, outside of that 4-year degree. And it's like, what is it for me? Or individuals that do go into the post-secondary option, and then 2 years in, they realize it's not for them. And they're like, well, what do I do? I'm at a crossroads. Do I continue on for the sake of getting a degree, or do I try to change and, go a whole completely different way? And that's what registered apprenticeship is there for, those individuals that day one outside of high school or even in high school, they can start their program and really gain those skills towards a career in that profession. So when I say diversity, I mean literally rural, urban, it all, wherever you are in the state, wherever you are in the country, registered apprenticeship can be for you. So again, main components, you'll see more and more of this from our office, this graph, this infograph, because it really does outline a good job of what the main components are. So Abby, you want to go to the next one? So state apprenticeship agency. So again, as I said before, there's been a lot of movement within registered apprenticeship in the state of Iowa. And effective June 24th, so only a few months ago, the Iowa Office of Apprenticeship was approved by the Department of Labor to be a state apprenticeship agency. So what that means is Iowa now oversees all things apprenticeship in the state. Before, we had a DOL office, a federal office of apprenticeship. And we basically have taken the baton and the transition from that team to now a state-run team. And that's my team, Iowa Office of Apprenticeship. And I'll get to our team here in a minute. But really, what does that mean is like we're going to oversee all of the program development, all of the paperwork, all of the management, all of the compliance. Because again, as I said before, a registered apprenticeship is still a DOL run facilitated program at a national level. So even though we are a state apprenticeship agency, there are still guidelines that we have to follow, that we have to maintain that SAA status. So we do have to stay with, again, follow those guidelines of what DOL deemed basically out of it's the federal code, CFR 2930, for those of you that like to read code. Take that for a spin and let me know what your thoughts are. But with we have to stay within those parameters. And so again, even though state apprenticeship agency, we oversee everything, there's still those federal guidelines that we also have to maintain as well. We are currently underway. So on June 27th, well, actually, let's say on June 26th, we oversaw no programs officially. And on June 27th, just like that, we were then in charge with task of taking on all of the 965 sponsors and almost 10,000 apprentices. So again, it's been a bit of a transition of us kind of getting our footing and making sure that we provide that customer service, that we're there for our sponsors and continue to, again, move these programs forward and be there to help with this transition as much as possible. So go ahead, Abby. And I believe this is my last slide, but I just wanted to introduce you to the team here. Again, small but mighty. We have, some of these individuals may be familiar to you. Deb Fox and Chris Kula are currently our apprenticeship program coordinators. So right now, these two are actually the two managing every program in the state and helping develop new programs for new sponsors, which is an enormous task in and of itself. But good news for them. We are bringing on 2 new apprenticeship program coordinators. So the state will be divided by 4 between those APCs. So hopefully, that will help just with everything, with customer service, the amount of bandwidth and all of that. So cavalry is on the way. We are adding 2 more people to our team. But those APCs are primarily the ones that are working on the programs, developing programs, and really working with those employers to create new opportunities. And we have, the rest of the team. Colby is our program manager, working a lot with our grants, with all of the behind the scenes communications and marketing. And then also the rest of, with Sandy, administrative specialist, again, working on a lot of the data tracking. Anne is primarily our grants specialist at this point. For those of you familiar with our 84E and F, and also our Iowa Health Careers, she's overseeing those programs. Ashley is overseeing our TPRA program, for those of you that are familiar or looking, part of that program. And then Abby, who's on this call, is our work-based learning program designer as well, whose primary job is to help work with schools to identify those barriers to implement work-based learning and then also create those programs. So, so I guess as I wrap up here, I just want to say, there's not a ton of change, honestly, from the OA office, from the federally run office to SAA, other than we really are going to work with the customer service and strive to help, make this as simple process as we can. But also, too, we have now the resources of all of our programs and staff within Iowa Workforce Development. So our business engagement consultants, our career planners for individuals. We really now have a network to really help everyone wherever they are in the process of starting that conversation about registered apprenticeship, whether you're an employer or an apprentice, to really move that forward. So as we continue to transition, please bear with us, have patience with us, but super excited with the opportunity that we have now as a state apprenticeship agency to really see this grow and take off, and working with this fantastic team that I have. So I will stop there, Tara. I will give you back the microphone, if you will. And yeah, if there's any questions at the end of at the time, be happy to ask those. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Dane. And just Dane had reminded you, and I'm going to remind you again, questions that you have. And so we'll make note of that, Jenna, with your question to come to that, because we will have time at the end. We are going to move on to welcome Kent Hieronymus, Technical Training Manager with Interstates Incorporated.
Thank you, Tara. And again, I am Kent Hieronymus. I'm the Technical Training Manager at Interstates. And I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about why it's so important to us here at Interstates to hire adult and high school registered apprentices. So Abby, if you can hit the next slide. And then we can even go to the next one. There we go. So before I go into why we do it, I want to give everybody a little bit of insight into who we are and some of those roles that we're actually looking at. So we are a specialty electrical contractor. We started in Sioux Center, Iowa 70 years ago with one person, have grown over the last 70 years. We now have over 1,500 employees, 14 different regional offices. And out of that 1,500 employees, we still have close to 600 of them that are electricians. So crafts folks that are doing all of the actual construction and instrumentation on that. As we continued to grow, we also brought in all of the different specialties for that electrical side. So we do our own design, everything from our electrical engineers doing the power and the controls to our virtual design construction folks that are drawing everything out for our construction folks, our construction team. We also do all of the automation programming. So that could be anything from developing human machine interfaces through programming the programmable logic controllers. And then we also do all of the protection of those automated systems. So networking, computer systems, cybersecurity, everything else. So as we've grown over the last several years, we noticed that several things stood out and they aligned very closely to what we are finding as straight challenges in the state of Iowa. So Abby, if you can hit the next one. So I pulled this off of our Iowa Workforce site, and you can look at that and see, I'm sure a majority of us all face these same challenges. So looked at all of the employers in the western half of the state, and over 70% of all of the employers on the western half said that they agree or strongly agree that there is a lack of qualified applicants. And then almost 75% said that they agree or strongly agree that there is a general lack of applicants, period. So as an organization, we were focused on growing. We wanted to make sure that we were able to tackle both of those things. So first one of figuring out a way that if there's not qualified applicants out there, how can we help train them, develop them, give them the knowledge, skills, and abilities they need to be successful. And then the second piece of that is how do we actually bring people into that job pool, finding them from other locations where they can move to Iowa and work for organizations like us. So that's where we did a lot of focus on those apprenticeship programs. So if we hit the next slide, so we'll see on that next slide, 20 years ago, that got busy on me. So 20 years ago, we started our electrical apprenticeship program. And you can see in there that it's Department of Labor, Iowa State Agency, Apprenticeship Agency, and Veterans Affairs registered. So when we started that one 20 years ago, the idea was we can grow our own. We can take young men and women that have an interest in getting into the trades and help train them and give them that skills. It's a 4-year program. They start off when they've come out of high school. And our recruiting team does a lot of focuses a lot of their effort on not only tech schools, but military and high schools for this program. So that program was doing very well. Right now, we have over 220 apprentices in our electrical program itself. Well, as we continue to grow, we realized, hey, that it was going very well, but we also needed skilled individuals in other areas, and we were able to find them as well as easy as it would be nice to. There's that easy button eludes us, and I'm sure a lot of other organizations out there. So in the last year and a half, we've gone through and actually developed 4 additional registered apprenticeship programs. And you can see those all on that screen. The main, and I'll just kind of walk through a little bit because each of them is a little bit different. Our industrial manufacturing technician program, we started about 2 years ago. And that one, we focused strictly on high school students. So we built a lot of relationships with our local high schools around Sioux Center, Sioux County, and worked with them to find students that want to get into the trades, that want to understand manufacturing. And they're able to get them out of school a little bit early where they can come into our shop and do some of the hands-on. And then we've partnered with NCC out of Sheldon for the RTI piece of that apprenticeship program. It is Department of Labor and Iowa State Agency registered. It's about an 18-month competency-based program, and it's set up for 16-year-olds, high school juniors that can come in, and then by the time they graduate high school, they're also completing that apprenticeship program. So then they've got a full-time job with us in our manufacturing side of the house. The other three focus on applications programmers. So these are the ones that are doing the automation pieces for those large projects that we're doing. So they're learning everything from programming, programmable logic controllers, human machine interfaces, all of those different pieces. Again, completely registered. Our recruiting efforts for that have been focused on the military, the high schools, and then career changers, people that started on one path and were looking for something different. So we have an opportunity to grow that second, or to face that second challenge where there's just not enough candidates. So by focusing on military and career changers, it gives us some additional talent pools to work with. And then our final two apprenticeship, one of them is that operational technology. And that's the one where they're learning all of everything from computer endpoint security, electrical, cybersecurity on those plant floors. So taking care of the entire automation system for those plant floors, making sure the networks stay up, operational, and that our clients stay up and operational that entire time. And our last one that we just got approved, actually, we were probably hopefully one of the first ones that Dane's group had to actually the ability to sign off on. We had it submitted, and then it got turned into right between that change between Department of Labor and the Iowa State Agency. We had that one work through the system. So that one was approved here recently. It is also VA approved. It is a 4-year program. And when they get done, they'll actually be designers in our virtual design and construction team. So again, we are completely focusing on military, tech schools, and those individuals that are changing careers. So that is the main piece of how we started looking at facing the challenge of not having qualified candidates. So we figure we might as well train them ourselves. We have the knowledge, skills, and ability to do that. And then the second one of figuring out how we can grow that actual talent pool. So not just focusing on the candidates that everybody else is trying to get to. We can actually work on other ones and bring them into these apprenticeship programs. So Abby, if you go on to the next slide. The other thing that we're focusing on as we bring individuals into this is that they have a good career path or a growth path that they can follow. So I use the one for our VDC apprentices, and you can see, and I know there's a lot of little circles and paths on there, but those VDC apprentices come straight in. Once they complete that program, they're at that designer level. So if they came in without going through the apprenticeship program, it's going to take them 4 or 5 years before they can get up to that point. And then they've got a career path that they can follow to go into a team lead, into a senior team lead, or they can actually even go towards a design manager. So there's multiple career paths that individuals that come into these different apprentices can go through. So it saves them or gives them the opportunity to have a long-lasting career with our company, and they can continue to grow the entire time they're going through that. So those are the main things, and I think that goes right back to why we're doing it. One was there's not enough people out there, so we decided we're going to put some apprenticeship programs together and make sure that we've got a good career path lined out for everybody that we bring in. So thank you for the opportunity for me to do this. And Tara, I will turn this back over to you.
Thank you very much, Kent. Again, remember to put your questions in the chat box. And we are now going to welcome Daryl Butcher, College and Career Readiness Coordinator at Southeast Polk High School, and Sheldon High School's Amanda DeGroat, Business Teacher, Work-Based Learning Coordinator, and Cindy Pruitt, CAPS Instructor and Tag Teacher.
Awesome, thanks. I'm Daryl Butcher. I'm the College and Career Readiness Coordinator at Southeast Polk. We've built 6 registered apprenticeship programs and 3 pre-apprenticeship programs over the past 2 years. And I'm going to talk a little bit how we kind of got those programs going and what we did to kind of move forward with those. So, Abby, if we could go to the next slide. One of the big pieces for our registered apprenticeship was our advisory council, and we listened really close to that group of people. We host our advisory council twice a year, and we make sure our targeted business partners and our current business partners that we work with are part of our advisory council, or nonetheless, or at least invited to that piece. Loud and clear, we've heard from our advisory council that skilled workers, skilled trades are a need in our area. They can't find enough of. And this was a great place for us to really find some of our community business partners and engage that first conversation with them, was being a part of our advisory council and bringing them in so they could see firsthand what our students are doing within our school, and they can talk to us about what their needs are as a business and what kind of careers were they looking for. So, Abby, if we can go to the next slide. So part of how we did this, we attend a lot of career fairs. We're at Build Iowa, Build My Future, the ABC competition, Skills USA, and this put us in contact with most of our business partners, if not all of them that we work with, people who we didn't know. But as we started taking students, and as I started attending these career fairs, we began putting these pieces together and knowing who our community was, that were doing that. Apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship aside, these same contacts were easy to help out in terms of guest speakers in the classroom and other things like that we were looking for. So I couldn't encourage you enough as a school district, if you have the opportunity to go out and take your kids and go to some of these events that host these career fairs. We also take our students out to our local apprenticeships that are available within our area. We're fortunate enough that we have 16 or 17 area local apprenticeships that we can take students to with that. And not only did we start taking students to those apprenticeship programs, last year we started taking our high school guidance counselors there as well, because we wanted our guidance counselors to see firsthand what it was like in that apprenticeship program and what the process looked like to get in. College is a one set path to get in. You fill out the FAFSA, you apply to the school, you have an admissions rep. All of our apprenticeship programs in our area are slightly different in the process in which you do it, of how you apply and when they take students. So we really do try to invest in our students and letting them know what those processes look like and work with our area partners with that. So next slide, Abby. So with our 3 apprenticeship programs, we have a pre-apprenticeship program with our construction class at the high school that is partnered with the Carpenters 106 with us. So it gives our students direct entry into that program if they complete our construction course at the high school. So they get direct entry into there, and they'll help them find employment right away and get them going in their apprenticeship program with that. Our second one that we just started this year is our program for electricians, and we partnered with the Des Moines Electrical Apprenticeship Program for that. And so if they take our residential wiring or electronics course in high school, those students actually get their first year, except for one course, off of their plate that they don't have to take as once they graduate and enter the apprenticeship program at another level. So the only thing that they don't do is we don't do conduit bending with them, with our electricians. But so really a couple months in, our high school graduates are year 2 apprentices with their program. So it really kind of gives them an up and a direct entry into that program as well. Our third one that we have is Introduction to Apprenticeship. And so we introduce it's really a twofold class. We have groups of students who know they want to go into a trade, but they don't know what they want to do. So we introduce them to all of our area apprenticeship programs, and that way they know kind of what classes to take at the high school. We have some kids on the opposite end too that have taken every industrial tech class that we have at the high school, and they go, I still don't know what I want to do. So we put them into that pre-apprenticeship course, Introduction to Apprenticeship, to kind of help guide them for their post-secondary path with that. When doing this, when we aligning our courses with our pre-apprenticeship programs, I think it's important to know that we didn't change anything in our construction class, and we didn't change anything in our electronics class from what we were already doing. We didn't create classes for that. Those are courses we already were teaching at the high school. And so what we did is we met with our apprenticeship programs and said, what do you want your first year apprentices to know? And so we made sure that we were covering that content with our students in that course. And so that's kind of how they begin that process with their pre-apprenticeship program. The only class that we did add to our curriculum this year was we did add our course Intro to Apprenticeship. We piloted it last year with 20 students, and we had 168 high school kids who opted to take that course this year. So next slide there, Abby. We also have 6 registered apprenticeships that we have. We have diesel techs, we have auto techs, we have welding, we have medical secretary, we have CNC operators, and we have vet tech. Our diesel mechanic program is by far our biggest one. We have double-digit kids out working with 3 different business partners in our diesel mechanic piece. We originally wrote that piece with Deborah Fox. So she walked us through our first one with that. And, Dana had talked earlier about the wage and salary of those. We wrote ours with students that were 16 entering into this program at $20 an hour. And that was 2 years ago. It was our first one we wrote. But I think all of our companies now pay more than $20 an hour to get kids started at 16. So it's a huge benefit for our students who are interested in being a diesel tech to be part of that piece. We look at all of the RTI that we have in place in our school. So we do the same thing with our registered apprenticeships. We sit down with our business partners and said, okay, what are some things that you can teach students here? Here's what we teach at school. And that's how we kind of built our program to meet the needs of our diesel tech businesses. So we look through that and we go through piece by piece what the Iowa Department or the Department of Labor is saying we need for those skills. And we cross those off together as we go with that. So next slide there, Abby. So, the first time, we had a lot of help from Iowa Workforce Development. Like I said, Deb Fox really helped us with our first program that we wrote. But after that, once we figured out what the paperwork process would look like and how to do it, we've since written all of the other programs on our own and just submitted those for approval for that. So it's a lot to learn at the beginning. There's a lot of learning on the front end, but once you get the process down, it's not too difficult to begin to put together a pre-apprenticeship program or a registered apprenticeship programs. We also make sure when we write those programs that we're sitting down with our partners. We talked about the RTI instruction that takes place to make sure that either us or them are providing that instruction so that we don't have any gaps in what students need to know when entering that workforce with that. So with that, I will turn this back over to Tara, and I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions.
All right, thank you very, very much, Daryl. Now we will just move on with Cindy and Amanda.
Hi, my name is Cindy Pruitt, and I am, I don't know if is our presentation up, Tara?
Not seeing it just yet. Abby?
Yeah, give me 1 second. My PowerPoint just closed. I will get it up here in just a minute.
Well, that's okay. I can go ahead and talk here. So my name is Cindy Pruitt. I am the CAPS instructor, tag teacher, and I do work-based learning support at Sheldon High School. We're a smaller school in Northwest Iowa, not too far from Kent in Sioux Center.
And my name is Amanda DeGrill. I'm the business teacher here at our high school, and I'm also the work-based learning coordinator.
And when Abby gets our presentation up and going, you'll find our contact information for both Amanda and myself is in that presentation. I really started our presentation with a little background from where we started. I listened as I listened to Daryl, the Southeast Folk. You guys have done an amazing program. You have an amazing program built up, and I don't know how big Southeast Polk is, but we are just really getting started on this road. So if anyone out there is also kind of just getting started with this, let us be your guide, I guess. So a couple of years ago, we started developing our work-based learning program, kind of remodeling it and growing it with Amanda and myself. I was an instructional coach, and so one of my duties, I was assigned to help build that program. And so at that time, we started a CAPS program here in Sheldon. CAPS stands for the Center for Advanced Professional Studies. It's similar to a lot of the professional programs like in the Waukees and with the Apex Center and around the state, where CAPS associates learn and practice professional skills while completing work for a client. Having that in place, you can go to the next slide, Abby. Having that in place was very beneficial for us because it allows us, the program is actually really quite flexible. And because of its flexibility, Sanford's Health, which is out of Sioux Falls is actually our nearest large city, reached out to us and they wanted to start a CNA internship. We didn't have the internship at this point, but because we had the CAPS in place, we were able to work flexibly within CAPS and use the internship as our CAPS project. And so I think that's probably one of the things you're going to hear me say over and over again is that our growth through here has required us to take what we have and really work on any opportunity that was handed to us or made available to us, and then really be flexible within our constraints. So we had our CNA internship started. It grew with popularity, and so then our internship broke off into its own program. And now Amanda teaches the ORB internship separately, and it's become very popular with our students. You can go ahead and forward to the next slide. So one of the things that I think is kind of different for us, because we are a small school in a small community, each placement for our internship is uniquely designed from a template. So a lot of schools, they have something where they can just copy and paste and copy and repeat and put a lot of students through a large program, which most of our businesses in our school does not have that capacity. So it's become necessary for us to really take each student and each business on an individual basis. So we started out that our intern was at the employer 1 to 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then back at school on that 5th day. Go ahead and forward, Abby. But then in the process of this, we were given a challenge, and one of our potential business partners really wanted to partner with us, but the time that we had allotted for our ORB internship was not long enough. That was a repeating feedback that we got from a lot of our trade partners, that it just wasn't enough time. An hour to 2 hours wasn't enough time for a student to get on site into a job and to have a meaningful experience before they had to leave. So one partner in our community committed to exploring options with us. We really didn't know what we were going to do, but we decided we would look into it and see what our options are. We got connected with the state and workforce development, and we developed our quality pre-apprenticeship program. Go ahead, Abby. Oh, you can go ahead, Abby. Okay, thank you. So who we ended up working with is Fred's Plumbing and Heating. They are kind of large for our area, but comparatively probably a small plumbing and heating business for Northwest Iowa. We worked with Mandy, who works there. She is motivated and really interested in getting students into her business. And so she just wanted to know how we could work together to make that happen. We worked with Chris, who's now at the Iowa Office of Apprenticeship. And of course, Abby was a great help for us as well. If anyone is looking to get started with this, I would say this would be your first step, is to reach out to the Iowa Office of Apprenticeship and get partnered up with these people. They are amazing at their jobs, and they were able to just lead us right through this whole process. Go ahead, Abby. Next slide. There we go. All right. So as we were meeting with Chris and Abby and Mandy to do this, some of the program goals that we had in our district was to create a program that allowed students to explore and begin a career, to provide options within that program for career-aligned training, to provide options within that program for career-aligned certifications, so your industry recognized credentials. We wanted to make sure we were making effective use of the students' and employers' time. And we wanted to make sure that the student was receiving coaching as they begin their transition to a professional in their intended field. Next slide, Abby. When we worked on the math, we found that we were going to do the internship or this quality pre-apprenticeship. We were going to do it 4 periods a day, 5 days a week, which equated to about 252 hours for us. This was important for me to understand because as I was planning and putting together the components of this program, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't underscheduling or overscheduling our students and our employers. Fred's works with PHCC, which is Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association. Chris was able to reach out and he found out that PHCC was actually in the process of developing QPA modules for both plumbing and HVACR. We do not teach plumbing and HVAC in our high school. We have a pretty small, we only have one teacher that teaches all of our industrial tech. So we do have our community college in our hometown here in Sheldon that does offer some trades programming, but they do not offer plumbing, heating, or HVAC. So we were really kind of limited in terms of how we're going to get this training. And so it was nice that PHCC had this available. I estimated they could complete both modules in about 24 hours. The module only costed $29 a piece. And one of the things that works well for us is those modules are both online and asynchronous. So we could work it around the employer's schedule and the student's schedule. Go ahead, next slide, Abby.
And we have time for about another minute or so, and then we'll move on.
I'm going quickly here. Okay. We're able to have our interns take OSHA 10. So we, again, really wanted to make sure that our students ended up with industry recognized credentials. We also have the option for CPR, AED, and first aid built in. Next slide, Abby. The bulk of the time the student spends with the employers, 3 to 3.5 hours a day. The 5th day they actually spend back at school with the instructor working on training. If the employer is not able to keep the student that amount of time, we supplement with related NCC classes, either applied math topics or technical communication. Next slide, Abby. We develop a training plan and we use rubrics to evaluate. Next slide, Abby. And actually just go ahead and let's skip to our challenges. Next slide. Some of the challenges we face in Northwest Iowa, and you might face here if you're also another small school, is our employer pool is limited. Our employers are not large enough that they're able to take an intern every term. So again, that requires a lot of individualization and flexibility. Teacher time is a challenge. Amanda does teach a full business schedule. I think being able to lean on my tag endorsement and my tag position gives the school a little more time that we can pull. Finding relevant training was difficult. Sometimes we do lean on NCC, our community college, also some of the trainings that are available online. And one of the things that we run into is a lot of our employers up in Northwest Iowa do not use an apprenticeship. They don't have a Department of Labor approved apprenticeship. So we usually have to be flexible around that as well. One more slide. My recommendations are to start small, look for opportunities within an existing program that you already have. Make sure you seek out motivated, innovative partners. I think that's probably huge because everyone has to be solution oriented. Don't be afraid to take risks and be flexible around what you have. If you skip 2 slides, you'll find Amanda's and my contact information. All right. Back to you, Tara.
And remember, the slides will be shared out. So you will have the information from Cindy and Amanda that zoomed through for us. But thank you very much. And Kale, oh, sorry, I was just jumping right to Kale, but Kale Hutchings with the Iowa Department of Education, the Industrial Technology and Applied Sciences Consultant.
Thanks, Tara, and thank you everybody for taking some time out to join us either live or into the future. My name is Cale Hutchings. I work at the Iowa Department of Education, specifically with career and technical education programs, and more specifically than that, I work very closely with applied science, industrial technology programming across the state. And I was kind of asked today to, talk a little bit about the industry recognized credentials, and hearing the previous speaker kind of mentioning how they were building that into some of their work-based learning opportunities for students. This is going to dovetail, really nicely into some of those things. So I've got a slide with just some bullet points, and we'll kind of talk through that as we move forward. So to kind of set the stage, lots of research has been kind of floating around. The importance of industry recognized credentials has been on the rise nationwide. Um, and really it kind of fits into what a couple of studies have identified as good jobs, and good jobs being about $35,000 per year for someone under 45 years of age in the United States. These jobs are held by workers with less than a 4-year degree and maybe more than a high school diploma. And so this really positions the importance of industry recognized credentials right in that space, where we are hearing from business and industry folks. This is kind of the workforce they're cultivating. We're hearing from secondary programming and post-secondary programming. These are sort of the intended outcomes for their graduates. And so it's a great place and a great time to have that conversation about those industry recognized credentials. To kind of set the stage from there, though, we do want to talk about what an industry recognized credential is in terms of definition. And so we really look at these as being exam-based, administered by third parties. And I think that's something to kind of key into. It is a sort of a zoomed out version of what a student may attain at a high school or community college, for example, institution, some of the training they would receive there. This is sort of as maybe unbiased as we can get, and more widely recognizable out there with that third party credentialing body. And that's an important piece because there are many components of industry, both in the CTE space as well as the non-CTE space, that use these third parties for that very reason. It's supplemental to that traditional post-secondary credential, and it is looked at by employers as something that is providing a foundational skill set, or a competency range for that student or for that incoming employee. And I think that also kind of helps to solidify its importance. Looking at the industry recognized credential as a benchmark for employees and stakeholders. And I think that's an important thing to consider, as really, industry recognized credentials can provide some currency in the labor market and serve as key momentum points. They can serve as currency in kind of two primary ways. One, it would be help an individual find employment or advance in the workforce, or two, accelerate a student's progression into and through some post-secondary education and training. They bring that to the table. It's recognized, the skill set that industry recognized credential highlights. And as we just heard from our previous speaker, there were some really beneficial components, OSHA certifications, or some baselines that they could provide students to help them be successful as they move forward in the maybe pre-apprenticeship or registered apprenticeship process. One thing that I did want to kind of point out, and this is kind of some exciting research findings here, and I've included kind of the citation for that, is that industry recognized credential attainment can increase the earnings of low-income job seekers by more than 10,000 over the first 2 years of enrollment in that training program. So it kind of sets the stage. It shows kind of the capability of that individual to earn that certification, and again, widely recognized through business and industry channels. Just as a really quick wrap up, and I know we're kind of up against our time block for this, but industry recognized credentials not necessarily validate what teachers teach, but they can show what students have learned. And I think that's a very important component for that student to bring to the table. They offer the student a level of flexibility when pursuing a number of pathways, starting and stop points, just due to the nature of some of the students coming into or changing interests. And as you are developing industry recognized credentials for implementation, you should really also consider aspects of portability, allowing that student to move that credential, keep that credential with them, and move from maybe locale or region-based opportunities, and the stackability where they're able to sort of build on that foundational skill set with maybe some of those stop outs that still prove what they learned. So one of the things that the Iowa Department of Education is working closely with, and as well as my CTE team, is developing the definitions of, working lists for, and help for school districts and post-secondary institutions to implement these into their CTE classrooms. And more information on that can be found at the department's website. I appreciate everybody's time, and I think that is my time, Tara.
It is. Thank you very much, Kale. And we are going to wrap up. And I think it's kind of the perfect wrap up, finishing with Kale with the Iowa Department of Education as one of the co-sponsors, and then going to Kathy Leggett with Iowa Workforce Development.
All right. Well done, everybody. Thank you so much. Just 4 things that I want to wrap up with. And number 1 is please check out our next webinar. It is on the website, the IWD website, and it is November 19th. And the Iowa Business Council is we're going to take a dive into the top 4, the list of professional proficiencies that their employers need in candidates and in employees. And this is really great and important information to make sure that we all have to support our workforce system. So please register. And then we have multiple other webinars going through April. Those are all on the webpage now. So take a look at those, many great topics. So please join us for that. Secondly, as I think Tara mentioned, slides and the recording of this will be emailed out to you likely by the end of this week. So that will come soon, and you will have all of this contact information. Third, I did want to remind you to contact us, please. If there are remaining questions, or you are just like, I need to, have a sit down and a brainstorm or about next steps, many resources in this slide deck for you. So please reach out to any of us, IWD, Iowa Department of Education, and the folks who presented. Reach out to anybody. We're all here to help you. And then finally, I want to thank you for giving us your time today, your valuable time, and attending this webinar. I want to thank all of our presenters, great information and great work that you do. And then a special thank you to Tara and Abby for facilitating this. Tara, great job. And Abby for making sure our slides get shown and are a part of our presentation. So thanks to you guys, and we hope to see you on November 19th.